Morning, Soraya.
Hey, Jeff.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. We are up to, I think, episode 192,
Ooh,
not
child.
mistaken, somewhere around there. And this is the last of our 2023 new release roundup series.
Yes, sir.
And we've covered so far the Bengals-ish,
Yeah.
when we had Vicky and John on talking about Action Skulls, the Dream Syndicate-ish, when we were talking to Steve Wynn about Journeyman. And then
Right.
last week we did Rain Parade talking about their album from 2023, Last Rays of a Dying Sun, with Matt Pucci and Stephen Robeck. So what does that leave us?
Well, of course, that leaves us with the 3 o'clock.
The 3 o'clock, yes. And so since we're talking about a new release roundup, was there a new release from the band?
Yes, because it was remastered 16 Tambourines.
Yes.
Yep, Rock Records
Yes.
with new cover photos.
We'll talk about that.
Oh, yeah, that gets talked about. But also, we get to talking about the great Bill Inglot and his work on this remastered version. And also we are joined by, of course, Danny Benair, Michael Quercio, and brief appearance by Luis Gutierrez.
Yes.
But yeah, and this was a great
guy in the
discussion.
back didn't make the call, did he?
No, Mickey Mariano.
Not this time.
Not this time. We've been fortunate to have Mickey on
Yes.
once.
Yeah.
And I hope he always knows that the door is always open for him to come back and talk about anything he wants to talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I really like this reissue.
Oh,
The cover notwithstanding, but it sounds fantastic. And we did ask out Soraya, you and I both have multiple copies of this album because it's one of our favorite albums of all time by any band, period.
right.
So we did ask why anybody needs this particular version, and I think we got a pretty good answer on that.
I think it's a great discussion for any 3 o'clock fan. This discussion around this remaster project. This is worth a listen and worth your time, and we can't wait to share it with you. So, Jeff, I say we jump into it.
Let's do it.
Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff.
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme,
a podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, a gruviar.
Let's get groovy. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So, Jeff, why don't you let our listeners know who has joined us today?
So, Soraya, we're very excited to have back Danny Benair and Michael Quercio of the 3 o'clock and of many other projects. But today we're talking about a 3 o'clock project because there's a new release, new release. This guy, or this guy.
Or if you have...
Oh, what do you got, Soraya?
This gorgeous...
There you go.
The vinyl. Amazing. Yeah.
Yes, incredible. Welcome, guys, to the show.
Hey, 1 second. I'll be right there again. I got to do something.
All right.
And then, of course, Marty Van B.
Yeah.
Not signed. What happened to his signature?
Hey, Marty Van B is a private guy.
That's part of our conversation. To answer all those questions.
Oh, well, we do have some questions.
There's answers to everything.
See, because in the original.
Oh, we know. We know.
All right.
Well,
okay. The one thing I can say as we start, besides the record, which Michael and I love, there's a lot of things about the compiling of the actual thing you were holding in your hand, Soraya, that were sort of a surprise to us. So.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about that. So one of the questions we want to start out with, thank you, Danny, is why, I mean, Jeff and I were comparing. Jeff has 7 versions. I have 4 of 16 Tambourines. And we're wondering, why should fans buy this version? We asked David Shaw, and he said, this is the definitive version of 16 Tambourines. Do you agree with that?
Yes, this is the remastered by Bill Inglot, incredibly. This is everything kind of put to right. It's the record more that we wanted the record to look like and be. We never wanted the cover. That was a complete mishap. I never had any idea that Marty Van Buren was going to autograph that. That was complete surprise. That was Lisa from Frontier who just did that. And yeah, so this is everything put together, you know, and then remastered wonderfully, really, by Bill Inglot, who was there at the time and knew the band, the old friend. And so it all, and now he's like this, you know, he does Fleetwood Mac and all the superstars. So I don't know, Danny, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, definitive is as definitive as today is. I mean, 10 years from now, who knows? You know, who knows? But no, I actually don't believe it's ever been remastered since the day it was made. So it just, you know, it came out on CD, it came out on vinyl, then it was put on colored vinyl. Nothing was done. It was just taken off the original stampers. So I believe sonically, Michael and I, when we listened to the test pressing, and we weren't gloating about it because we were in the band. I think we genuinely both believed that it sounded really great, and the thing I think we always felt about the record was its warmth, and we wanted to make sure that was there. And also, I think we both believe that the record is sort of novel in the sense that we're in our own little world when we make that record. It's not really like, well, we've got to do this or we got to do that, because it's not that. And it came out at, I think, the first few weeks, you know, people were like, what did they do? You know, but to answer your question, yes, I think for today, it is the definitive version.
Well, I mean, for instance, sonically, apart from the actual Frontier release, original release, you know, the American, I guess you want to call it. Yeah, there's a French version, there's a Japanese version, as you know. Now, I do not know what sources those come from, the Japanese and the French.
Yep.
I don't know if Lisa Fancher sent the original master tapes across the ocean. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right.
I don't know at the time how those were referenced.
Probably a tape copy would be my guess. You know, I think it was a secondary source.
I think they're secondary sources.
Oh,
that isn't necessarily bad. I mean, it depends on your ear, but I think that, you know, so that I've heard those, and I can hear that they're secondary sources
Okay.
to my ear.
well, it looks like we have another guest joining us.
And the modern Bill Inglot thing to me is my favorite. So
Okay.
And the vinyl being pressed, you know, that was, I think, really important too.
Yeah. So having listened to the new remastered version, I have to say sonically it's the best sounding version. I'm glad. Hey, Lewis, welcome.
Hey,
Oh, Jesus
thanks.
Christ.
Glad that you can join this conversation. We're just talking about the remastered version of 16 Tambourines, and we have some questions for you coming up. As you guys know, 16 Tambourines for me is one of the greatest albums ever issued, period. I have so many emotions connected to this album. It's the songs in here are all fantastic. It's a perfect album in my opinion. That's why I now have 8 copies of the vinyl. Anything. But I wanted to address the cover. So 40 years I've looked at this cover and I have a lot of emotions tied to this specific cover.
So do we.
Well, yeah, for different reasons. I know that you guys are unhappy with it. When I first saw this, I have to admit it was kind of unsettling to see 16 Tambourines look different. We know that you were unhappy with the original cover. Why did you make such a drastic change to the cover? I would
Well,
have thought you might have like had the same format and changed the photo, but you totally redid everything. Why is that?
well, okay, I'll start and then anybody should come in, I guess. This, when we made the record, we spent all the time. It was the most selfless act within the band we ever had. I think it was the most communal way we made a record. When it came to the photos, we used a person we genuinely really liked, but we were under a very strict time frame to get this record done, get it pressed, because we were going on the road. And we went to Lisa Fancher's apartment and we just looked at slides on the wall. And we picked, I think, of the photo for the cover, and we picked some photos for the solo shots. And I believe, because we, at that very moment, we were rehearsing a lot, which we always did, but we had a long tour. And I believe we thought we were going to get proofs. And we never got anything. So I'm at Lisa's and the record is there. And I open it and I call Michael. Michael's heard this 1,000 times, maybe Lewis 500. And I opened it and I said, "Oh my God, it looks like it's a dartboard." And he was like, Michael's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's the worst album cover ever." And he's like, huh? He has this very funny laugh if you hang out, kind of the nervous laugh. And he said, "Oh no, it's not." I said, "You just won't believe, how it sits on the page, because they didn't structure it with all of a sudden it's just a white at the top in the photo." And then later that day, I saw Michael and I believe Lewis, and I'm not sure exactly Lewis can give his 2 cents on what he felt at the time, but I know Michael and I were truly, Mickey with his shirt unbuttoned, off in the corner, out of focus, looking nervous. It just always, and there were so many better. It's the funny part. I just want to say is the funny part is when you look through the slides, there's so many better photos. Even the foreign one you have where, where Mickey's sitting closer. It's just, that's a better photo. So that's what I'm going to say. That's how it came to that. And I mean, that's a better photo. And the first thing we tried to do with Yep Rock, Michael and I tried to resuscitate the cover with David Shaw. We worked on it with our art director.
Oh.
And
the pictures that are on the new cover, those are from the promo session photograph photographer. The pictures we took for promo shots for the album itself. I think they might have even been taken in between recording sessions. We all met on La Brea or somewhere like that, Melrose or
I
something.
think it was on East Melrose.
Melrose, and it was somebody's art studio or something.
And we only used for the poster, and I think that for the LA Reader used one, they were photos from the inside. And then I found when Lisa Fancher was like, "Take all this stuff, I don't want anything of yours," I found just this photo session. And it made no sense. I mean, it was like, why do I have this? And it was, all of it was all the outdoor photos. And so Michael and I started getting in a conversation about what's a better photo. And so Michael liked one, I liked another. And then I just kind of blurted out, why don't we have 2 album covers on the same cover? And David liked it, Michael liked it, I liked it. Lewis didn't. He was like, "You guys do what you want to do," as did Mickey. And so we sort of tried to make a novel album cover where you decide which cover is the front. And Ronnie Barnett, of course, will tell you we blew it, but that's good for Ronnie.
With that said, Lewis, I
Yes.
have no idea what Lewis thinks of the cover.
Yeah, Lewis, we wanted to know what you thought about the cover and memories of the photo shoot.
Okay, well, I remember about the original cover. It was rushed, and we went to a photo studio with our friend Chris Hastings, who did a lot of our early photographs. He shot the cover of Broke Hoedown, and he shot the cover of 16 Tambourines. And I'm still friends with him today. And I remember Danny at one point, or maybe it was Mickey, saying that there's like this interrogation lamp above us on the cover of 16 Tambourines. I never thought it was a bad cover. I never thought it was a great cover. But if you look at the Salvation Army record cover, which was very colorful and there's a lot to look at, and it just was shiny and pretty. And then Broke Hoedown was similarly attractive. This was a departure for sure. So it was more stark and simple. That was the way I always related to 16 Tambourines cover. This one, as Danny said, I didn't have any relationship with it, with anything about this record. I had forgotten about those photographs. I knew that they were outtakes from what became like our poster for 16 Tambourines. I guess I thought it was a bit odd that it didn't say the name of the band on the cover. I got the sort of upside down dual cover idea, but I don't know. I was sort of, it's an interesting photo to me because I'm in the picture, and so that's my relationship with it. To be perfectly honest.
You look great, by the way.
Yeah.
Well,
It was also
I was like 19 or I was like
How could you not
21,
when
and
you're
I'm now
19?
60.
I mean,
So
it's a given, yeah.
anybody looks great at 19 or 21.
Lewis, do you remember the
I think
photos
the-
too? Oh, sorry, Danny. Go ahead.
Oh, I just think that, and it probably came really from Michael, but I think it was like we made this very. I mean, I think I kidded at the time. It looked like we were stockbrokers or something. Lewis is getting ready for his future world. He doesn't even know it.
We purposely didn't want to be psychedelic or Paisley because that was so getting put on us as a moniker. And Danny and I purposely said, we're going to wear plain white shirts. And Lewis showed up like he just came out of a 1960 frat party, got his haircut and everything. And we definitely were not trying to be, we wanted to not be Paisley. That's how I remember it.
Yeah, no, I remember. I remember at the time saying something like I felt like we were stockbrokers, you and me, Michael. And Lewis looked sort of, he had the tie. And of course, Mickey didn't get it. Mickey forgot and didn't come with a button-up shirt.
I would have explained it differently. I would have explained it that we knew we were part of the mod scene in Los Angeles, and we were definitely pegged to that. We were thinking less psychedelic, more modified mod. I don't know how to put it. I mean, it was like and I think that was sort of the look of the band at that time. Button-down shirts, still peg pants, pointy shoes, but definitely less frilly than the previous pictures. So
That makes sense. Yeah, it's probably a combination of what Lewis said. I mean, and Michael, but we definitely don't see anything Paisley on it. And that was, and it doesn't mean like I think live we were still dressing in all kinds of clothes, but so yeah, and that was kind of. I mean, I just stumbled upon that photo, those slides, like a couple months before we were going to do the record, and it was just like I didn't even know I have them.
They're great. They're great photos. And I'm glad, Danny, when you talk about how you did the flip cover, you guys went full on with this idea, so much so even with the spine being reversible, and even as far as the CD where you could flip it either way. So it actually does work either way completely. So you guys
the flip open was supposed to be just a giant picture of me. I don't know what happened.
That must have got overridden by
Yeah,
something.
I know.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. That's of course we did that.
So Soraya, we had questions about where we go from here, don't we?
Well, we were wondering a couple of things, and we wanted to know, okay, so Yep Rock has done a great job. They've re-released a single and an album, Salvation Army, Broke Hoedown, and now 16 Tambourines, and we're curious, is there more? Is there more to come from Yep Rock, or what else can fans expect?
I mean, I have brought up Arrive Without Traveling with them, but there are no rights that they own after this. I mean, it gets into diving into Universal. I mean, and I mean, Arrive was reissued once, obviously, on CD, but I would love to actually, and I think it's probably impossible because Universal is not really warm and fuzzy, but finding a way we could actually, maybe hear the tapes and go that way. But it's never, it was reissued probably from a second or third source on CD. But so I think that's it's hard to say because Yep Rock would have to be aggressive about it. I mean, Michael and I talked about we have demos forever after, which sorry does not include Lewis. I wish it did, but and Michael and I've talked about that, but I'm waiting to get them, and then Michael and I can like play with them. Maybe Lewis will come in and he'll read you the guitar. But he didn't seem excited about that. But yeah, that's something where we actually could be the rights owner. And but there isn't anything definitive, I mean, sadly to say.
So we were wondering also about that with licensing, because Frontier released the full-length Salvation Army, Baroque Hoedown, and 16 Tambourines. New Alliance released the single. So did Yep Rock have to license those?
There's still the Salvation Army was a limited that came out as a Record Store Day album on orange vinyl, was a very limited edition, unremastered.
Oh.
There's a lot, and there's some other that has yet to really be fully realized.
Oh.
The two singles that came out, the little four, also were very rushly, and those are not from remastered sources. Those still really have yet to be fully realized.
Okay.
Yeah, I know Danny's not part of those, but
I care. But I want it done right. We Frontier does not own the rights to any of the Frontier product.
Okay.
It's now owned by the band and Yep Rock as a joint venture. But okay. Yeah, they don't have any rights anymore. So we got all those back, and I don't know if there's something where we'll go and do, that's something where we'd have to trove through some tapes and actually go through the odds and sods and see what's actually on the tapes. But they didn't want to venture that this time. They just wanted to sort of do, except for Baroque, they wanted to add like the French record. They didn't really want to go through any tapes and see, if Lewis had done a different guitar solo, or I mean, there are versions of songs with Michael's different lyrics and stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of right. We're kind of at a point where I'm not sure what else we will do.
My answer to that, Jeff, is there are probably lots of demo tapes, like, because we used to record all of our rehearsals, many of them, just to listen back to. And Danny would archive those things. I'm sure Danny has boxes of cassette tapes from rehearsals. I mean, that's one avenue. Perhaps there might be some interesting things on there, songs that never were completed or songs that took a different shape. I think Danny has a recording of Jet Fighter, like the day that we finished the song downstairs at my house. I mean, the only other thing, candidly, is a new record. Recording a new record is a long shot, although not an impossibility. We've talked about it. But beyond that, I think just outtakes and demo tapes, possibly, if there's an appetite for that sort of thing. I don't know.
There definitely is an appetite, at least
Well,
with
there are two songs we played live and we have a radio session of, which certainly we could put out. We have it. It doesn't have to rely on Yep Rock. I mean, there's and they were played for a while, but it's early, like Baroque Hoedown period. Is a song called Three Boys and When I'm a Telephone. Those, I have the radio session from that. Those exist, and I always really like. Lewis doesn't remember this. I know Michael does. The second day I joined the band, we worked on a song called Visions of Airplane Fares. It sounds sort of like It could be on Forever Changes.
Ooh.
Lewis had sort of a really nice guitar picking thing that he did on it. Those, I mean, that's a song that is, the other two, that radio session exists. I mean, you could take those two and put them out as a 45 if you wanted to be archival. But yeah, we definitely have some rehearsal tapes, but I mean, this is a question for Michael and Lewis. I mean, it always seemed to me like Michael would come in with an idea, or Lewis would have maybe a piano idea, and then the song would just get built. I don't recall like, oh, I have a cassette, let me play you this idea of what Michael and Lewis were working on. I mean, Mickey did that with Jet Fighter. He had a demo of the riff of the da-na-na-na-na-na, and he brought that in. He had that tape from a piano. But I Go Wild, I think he just came in and played the riff, and then like Michael and Lewis kind of jumped from that. But I don't really recall you guys. Did you guys demo things at all?
No. When I say demo, I don't mean go into a demo studio. I mean
right.
But you know,
but did
like
you
an old cassette tape recorder where you just hit record and play, record it so you can listen back to it. That's what I'm referring to.
Right. Yeah. But
I
no,
thought
that's kind of what I don't
a lot of that
recall
kind
you.
of stuff. I think I even have I've talked to Jeff about this, but I have boxes in my garage that have old cassette tapes, and I'm sure there's a lot of 3 o'clock stuff on there. I just never threw it away.
I definitely have a lot of live gigs. I mean, we would get them all the time. You know, but some are good quality, some are not. I mean, that's why we put out the old Waldorf. It was pretty good quality, and it was early, and you know, it had Will Glenn on it, which was cool, and Suzanne, I think, played tambourine.
I have no cassettes. I have really very few pictures. I guess I was just so filled with self-loathing that I just never.
Yeah, so we did want to thank you for bringing that up, Lewis. We were definitely wondering about new material because some of your contemporaries, Dream Syndicate, Rain Parade, after 30 years, are releasing new material. So it sounds like there's a lot of logistics that could prohibit that from happening.
Yeah. So in my mind, Jeff, it's funny when I think about music and I think about writing songs and writing parts and ideas and coming up with melodies and the way that I contributed to the band in the past. Those ideas are just bubbling under the surface for me. They're right there. I feel like they're inside of me wanting to come out. But I don't have a piano. I don't play the guitar much these days. And lately, I mean, I do, but when I have to, but I don't just pick it up every morning. I look at it, I see it, I acknowledge it, but I don't actually, play with it. But yeah, I do. I have a strong creative streak in me still that feels like that there's a lot of things I'd like to do with music in the future. And it's just a matter of making a decision to actually make it happen. You know, it's not a matter of can I do it in my mind. I could be completely off mark. It's not a matter of can I do it? Do I have it in me? It's more of a matter of, what would it look like? How would I approach it? Do I really want to do it? Because it's a dedication, it's not just logistical. It is that, but it's also a commitment, to these guys and to the band. If that's the band that I would want to do it with, and that would be the logical choice for me, obviously. I feel like what we did as a band, we should all be very proud of. I know I am, and there was a period there in a very short amount of time where the creative output was, we were at our peak, no question about it, and that included Earl Mankey's involvement and certainly Mickey's. But I always imagine, and I've said this to Michael and Danny before, like if we were to do something in my mind in the future, it would be as if the band wasn't trying to recreate what we did in the past. It's what we would do if we had stayed together as a band. Where would we be creatively, sonically, musicianship wise, orchestrally? What would it sound like if we had continued to make records throughout time? And there doesn't need to be a 40-year gap in between, you know, like we've been making records for 40 years. I mean, if we just continued on our path, what would what would they have started to sound like? And then if you intellectually think about it from that perspective, then maybe you start thinking beyond 16 Tambourines. You're not trying to recreate what we've done in the past. You're actually trying to do something new and challenging for ourselves. That's the way I view it, right or
I
wrong.
always wanted to become a prog band, you know, like it evolved into like something like, you know, Topographical Oceans by Yes or something, you know, with
I
melody.
thought we were going to be Tyrannosaurus Rex, where you're going to be on.
I'm not kidding.
I thought you're going to be on guitar, and I'm going to be on bongos, and we're going to sit on the floor and talk about Drew
You know, just
Token.
have more, you know, maybe get out of the so much of the 3-minute, 50-second time frame and stretch out. But that's just me. I don't know.
Well, okay, I'm going to say one thing. I think I brought this up before, and I think the simplest thing here, and I don't want to make this an hour conversation, but the easiest bridge is for the four of us to get in a room, work on a couple ideas. Just work on a couple ideas and demo them. Adam's got the ability to demo songs. Work on a couple ideas, and if those couple ideas spark interest, we're not spending 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years trying to see, like, do we have the mojo? We go in and say, like, okay, what do you got? People, you know, Michael comes in, Lewis comes in, maybe Adam's written some interesting song. Come in with some ideas and just see, like, what's there. Instead of like saying, okay, well, we're going to take this giant race. I think that's just to me is a simpler way to kind of cross a bridge, try a couple ideas. Don't even need to think any further. If it works, then it's like when we did Jet Fighter. We all walked in the room that day and we're like, what the hell did we just do? And then 2 weeks later, we played it in San Diego and 2 people clapped, you know, but we were very inspired that day. So I think that would be the simple way to do it without renting studios.
Our career of Lewis and I, and Danny joining later, have always been different records. We started out, I mean, I started out with Troy and Johnny Blazing with those 4 demos, with those 4 songs that became the New Alliance single. And then Lewis came in and we did the Salvation Army, which was a punk band. And then we do the Broke Hoedown, which is, I guess, more garagey. And then we do 16 Tambourines, which is like, you know, something. And then we do a Rabbit Out Traveling, which is something completely different. And then I got real crazy, but that's a whole other story. But it's always been something different. So I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, I love Lewis's thought pattern on that you're not recreating what you did, but that it would be something fresh and
well, how could you anyway? I mean, you can't, you know, unless you're just saying, let's try to rewrite Jet Fighter. That's like bands in the 60s where they'd have a hit and they basically just rewrite the song. Right. I don't think, you know, I think creatively an easy bridge is you try a couple, you spend a day or 2 on just ideas, riffs, melodies, and you walk out of the room and you're like, that was okay. Or you go like, this is worth exploring. And you're not spending a bunch of money. I know we can get funding to make a record. That I'm not even worried about. But instead of like getting in a rehearsal room, like, let's just go in a room and see creatively if there's something that's everybody goes, that's fun. You know, I mean, that seems the simplest idea where you're actually having a minor little vacation, you know, from what you do every day and just working on some ideas.
And you mentioned Adam, who was part of the 3x4 project that you guys recorded those 3 songs on. So Mickey would not have any interest if you were to do something like that?
You know, I've talked to Mickey a lot lately because, and this has never really come up. Right after the 3 o'clock, Mickey and I wrote like 4 songs together. And we actually were just cleaning them up because we had never done it. And actually, Jason Faulkner played on it. Faulkner plays guitar and bass. He does some insanely crazy guitar solos. So we talked about it, and Mickey actually, it's very funny because Mickey said, you know, I think I might have this interesting idea that he had just put away years and years ago. And I said, really? And then I called him a week later. I said, what happened? He goes, oh, I listened to it. it's not worth anybody listening to, which is very Mickey as well. But yeah, so we were talking. He does have access to a keyboard. So look, Mickey never. I don't think Mickey ever failed on the few ideas he brought in. They were all ideas that became important. So I would love if Mickey had an idea that inspired Michael and Louis to pick it up and take the gauntlet, because his writing was unique in itself. It inspired I Go Wild, it inspired Jetfire, inspired Half the Way There. I mean, so that's just my 2 cents on it. But
yeah, Soraya and I are definitely big fans of the Quercio Gutierrez writing team. So if if there's any hope for this to happen, we're very excited.
Yeah,
I'm trying to give them an offer here.
I can comment on one of the things you said, Jeff, and that is the closest thing to new material that the 3 o'clock has is that 3x4 record, right? And but I mean, for all intent, it was new material, even though the songs were written by other people and they were written 30 years before, right? So we tried to take a different approach to an existing song, and make it our own. And the process of doing that was not unlike, and we worked with Earl Mankey, and it was not unlike the way we did it before. But I remember when I was in a band called Mary's Danish, and we made a record called American Standard, and Peter Asher was our producer. We recorded it up at Skywalker Ranch when the LA riots were happening in Los Angeles. And what I love about that record is that everything on that record that you hear was basically part of the initial track. There were very few overdubs, with the exception of guitar solos, some keyboard parts, and background vocals. And so we rehearsed the songs very with the tremendous amount of intent to try and figure out, rather than sometimes you go into a studio and you have a bass track, and then you layer on top of that and try and shine it up so that it has all the trimmings of a listenable song, but other times you go into a studio and it's almost like it's a live recording, and then you add certain things on it. The 3 o'clock tended to layer things on, especially toward the last record, Arrive Without Traveling. So I wouldn't want to take an approach like what we did to 3x4. As much as I like the way it came out, I'd prefer that we take a more organic approach, because then, your musicianship sort of comes through, and there's sort of a reality impression that you get with that. And I'm not talking about vocals being done live, or not having layered background vocals and all that, but just the track itself, so that the music really comes through.
The rhythm tracks were done live, and I mean, I overdubbed a lot of. I remember on the Dream Syndicate song, I overdubbed a lot of percussion.
Jetfire, I hear Danny and I sat in Earl's kitchen where the drums were recorded, and we did the rhythm track, and I hear my bass and drum interplay and I always wanted to go back, so I thought, well, we're going to erase the bass and go and re-record it. And Earl was like, yeah, we'll do that. But he was sneaky like that. That's because I can hear flubs in my bass playing, because I'm singing and guiding the guides at the same time. And to this day, I can hear, because Earl was like, no, we're just going to keep your rhythm. We're going to keep that live rhythm track. Now that I look back on it, that's the way they did it back on all my favorite records back in the day, because those were live rhythm tracks. And then you just, you didn't have you had 4 tracks. You didn't have the luxury of going back and redo and putting in. You stuck to what you put on. Usually with the drums, the bass, the rhythm guitar, and whatever else, because you needed those other tracks to put your vocals on. So, but I hear Earl do that a lot. He liked.
Yeah, the rhythm tracks were done fast.
Yeah, so you guys bring up Earl Mankey, who is a integral part of the band in my mind, at least like some of the key recordings, including 3x4. But my understanding is he's retired now, so I don't think he would come out of retirement to record if.
I'll make him an offer he can't refuse.
I mean, I spent a lot of time with Earl when we were doing the Wild Honey event. Tiger Lily, you got to stop that. I'm sorry, that's my dog whining.
That's
I kept bringing it up, and he of course, I'm saying it and being warm and fuzzy and kidding, but there wasn't really something before his eyes to try to get him to do it. He
Right.
seems very not working. I mean, he's worked his whole life. I mean, he's probably spent more time in his studio than you could even imagine. Oh, so about the lyric sheet, Lisa Fancher just wrote the Marty Van B stuff, and then Michael saw it and was like, "What?" We had no idea that was going to be on there. That was just a Lisa thing. And again, too late. I mean, the record's done. Here it is.
So was that something that you were unhappy with when you saw that insert and the fact that had that fake signature? I always thought I thought Michael had something to do with that.
No, the whole thing was supposed to be, who's this guy and why is he there? I mean, it was supposed to be like, just completely something thrown in, and I love history and stuff, and who's that guy? And that's just some old president. Why? It's like, I don't know. He's just there. I love this kind of things about art and music, and so she just kind of blew it with making it a goof, And at least clue me in on the joke, before everybody else sees it. But things are how they are. So
yeah, I think it affected Michael the most because it was his idea. It was a funny idea, and then Lisa just slapped that on there, and we're like, okay, we have this weird cover, we've got this weird signature, and 2 days later we were like touring. I mean, we there wasn't even time to like debate anything. It was sort of like, because also we toured hard. I mean, we played a lot of gigs, went to a lot of radio stations. We read the bad reviews that radio stations would write on our record. We read the good ones. But yeah, it was just another thing, and we just kind of trudged on. There wasn't much we could do about it.
So congratulations that you finally get what you wanted, and the remastered version sounds fantastic. It really does. And as unsettling as the cover is, I'm glad that you got something that means something to you.
Well, I don't have a record player or a CD player, so I have not heard it.
Unsettling.
well, after seeing it, I say that because it's a great photo, but after living and
living and breathing,
I get it.
4 decades of seeing that, and I know you guys have emotions tied to it. As a fan, I have emotions tied to that cover, and it's just so. When I first saw it, it was like, this is not 16 Tambourines.
Well, we should have used, there's that photo where I'm sort of it looks like I'm sexually coming up from behind to Lewis.
Yeah,
they're laughing. That should have been the cover.
That is a funny photo, but
well, that's what happens when you get near the end of a photo session. I think there is some band members were drinking some beer, and it looks like they are all going to be gems. I mean, and it's tough because I really loved Baroque Hoedown's cover. And I know it's funny because at the time, Lewis forgot his Beatle boots. And he said, oh, damn, I have to wear my tennis shoes. But I think that's what's really cool. I think the fact you see that he's wearing tennis shoes, it makes so much more sense, But I know at the time it was like, we got our Beatle boots and we're wearing them. But I love that that he's got the tennis shoes on, it's and that cover, I love that cover. I have, it's a great photo. It's a great location. Chris Haston did a wonderful job on that. The back cover is really nice. So stuff happens, but I think he'll be happy when he hears it because it is really it's got a really nice warmth, especially the vinyl. It really, it's I don't know. Michael and I were really pleased with the sound.
I'm gonna have to bring my turntable over to Lewis's house so Lewis can hear it.
Yeah, that's probably the only way I'll ever hear it because
I think you'll
You
be
know.
pleased. It sounds fantastic. And of
It's
course,
beautiful.
the music on it is timeless. And like I said earlier, one of the greatest musical recordings ever recorded in my mind. So congratulations to
thank you for
all
saying that,
three
Jeff.
of you. Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully there's more to come from the 3 o'clock. We'll see. I like the idea of
Talk
getting in-
amongst yourself, man. Come on, I'm here for you. Get on the bridge. We play a couple songs. See if it works. If not, we go on a merry way.
We're gonna play on a roof.
rooftop.
Yeah.
Rooftop.
There you go.
You're
On
gonna
top-
play on a roof? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like on top of a Wells Fargo building or something.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're gonna do it on top of a Sears building. A Sears building.
There you go.
Anyways, we wanted to thank you guys so much for taking so
Thank
much out of
you.
your time. Again, congratulations. I highly recommend that anybody, even if you already have this album, you have to get the remastered version because it just sounds fantastic.
Absolutely.
And to Danny's
What's his
point,
name? Who did the master on the vinyl? He's a legend. What's his name? Is it? I always forget his name.
oh,
Um,
I don't even know who it says. Soraya, you have your insert?
oh, you
Hold
have it
on.
right there. It's not on. You don't need the insert. It's right on
Oh,
the
Dave
cover.
Dave Schultz,
No, below it,
right?
the vinyl version.
Oh, lacquer cut at Bernie Grundman Master.
Yeah, Bernie Grudman. I mean, Bernie
Grudman.
Grudman is like the best. You know, I mean, he's like a legend. Seriously.
Some.
What were some other things that he'd worked on?
I mean, there's a trillion. I mean, just Google
Okay.
him.
Okay.
I mean, he's pretty much almost retired. I think he's in his 80s.
Wow.
I mean,
It's like the wrecking crew of mastering records.
I think Bernie Grumman and Bill
Bernie
Ludwig were two big, guys that mastered a lot of legendary records.
And now he's got 3 o'clock under his belt.
A crowning achievement.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
for
much.
taking time
Thank you,
out.
guys.
Appreciate
Really
your
nice to
time.
see everybody.
All right.
It's great. It's great seeing
Thank you,
everybody.
Jeff. Thank you, Soraya. Mike
Thank
and
you.
Dave, great to see you.
Thanks,
Talk soon.
everybody.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Oh, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
I heard it. Did you hear it? Talk
I-
soon, guys. I heard it.
Yeah. Is it going to happen?
I believe it.
Yeah. I mean, if Danny has his
Look.
way.
Look, Lewis said, I have a lot of creativity and it's bubbling at the surface.
Mhm.
Now, if I were a betting woman, and I am, the fact that he said it in that way, and I don't know if I believe him entirely when he says, I see my guitar, I just don't play it. I think he doesn't play it at the same volume, perhaps like the same amount of time that he used to. And, he's got a job that requires a lot of his time and, onward and upward. But the fact that he says he's got a lot of creativity, I think this is the door is open. And I think Danny and Michael are going to walk through that door. And look, you and I have said it. Dream Syndicate. What, in the past 5 years, it's been production, right?
Yep.
Rain Parade. Okay, and this goes to Lewis's point. I don't want to recreate what was. I want to hear what we would sound like now. Where would we have evolved?
Perfect.
And when you listen to Rain Parade's done that.
Yep.
They don't sound like, oh, we're going to take Emergency Third Rail and just go boop, boop, 2023. No, they've really kind of explored and stretched and done different things that we hadn't heard before, sound-wise.
Yep.
I think 3 o'clock can do the same thing. And, they've explored different things. you know, and they have a wealth of stuff. Just their own musical interest and knowledge. I don't know, Jeff. I'm very optimistic.
Me too. And thinking about where Lewis's musical career went up until he stopped playing, and the things that Michael had done with Jupiter Effect and Permanent Green Light, I honestly think that if they were to do another record, it could probably be their best. Honestly, I think because of where they grew individually and bringing that back together. And I'm completely honest when I say that writing team of Quercio and Gutierrez is fantastic. I mean, they're like, it's Jagger, Richards, Lennon, McCartney. I mean, those guys together, even if their names weren't tied on to songs, but what they brought to those songs with the 3 o'clock
Mhm.
and everything that they, how they grew individually after they were writing together and bringing that back together. I honestly think there's the potential for the best 3 o'clock work ever.
I think I 100% agree with you. 100%. And there's nothing that Lewis, Danny, or Michael said today that doesn't make me think that something isn't on the horizon. And look, this album is real. You and I can't gush enough about it. And it's really kind of, this was one of a couple of albums that really just kind of, it was the portal we walked through, right? But I also think they have a lot to say that hasn't been said musically, and I'm ready for it.
Ready for it.
Just hearing Lewis say, hey, I got ideas. And how about Mickey Mariano and Danny talking about new ideas? So, Jeff, the things that, make me be optimistic were said today.
Yep.
I mean, our love for the band, our love for the members of the band, people know, and we gush like we totally fangirl. But I really think today I heard words that really really make me look forward. And then I'm here for it. And just to hear Danny say, let's just get together and knock it about, I'm all, can we be flies on the wall?
No, right?
Because
Probably wouldn't be the best thing, but
well, but
yeah. Do they have cheerleaders at football practice? Or
I'm sure they did.
or do they
sure they practice.
or do they only bring the cheerleaders out for the actual games themselves?
Well, they bring them out, but the cheerleaders have to practice. I mean, we need practice too.
Yes, we do.
But there were a lot of things I learned today about 16 Tambourines that I had not heard before.
Yeah. The insert for one, yeah.
This guy. But yeah. I love the way Michael said it. He goes, the goal was to have this guy there, and people go, who is this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. You gotta, talk about it. And that's something that I enjoy about this cover. I know your opinions about it. We're not going to go there, but I like the concept.
Yeah.
However you flip it, however you pull it out, however you open the CD, that begins that walks you through that musical journey. And it's like those books. I don't know if you ever read those books when you were a kid where you could kind of determine the path of the story. And it's like,
choose your own adventure.
If you turn left, turn to, page 95. If you turn right, or like if you go through the tunnel, turn to the
choose your own adventure series.
There you go.
Yes.
There are, I'm not to geek out, but there are there's this one writer from Argentina, and he had kind of a similar idea where it was kind of like, he said, I'm not going to tell you how to listen to this. I'm not going to tell you how to read this book. Here's a possible map, but really it's up to you. You make the order.
Oh,
And nothing went in chronological order. And so anytime you would read it, the expectation was you had a different experience, you had a different approach and a different set of information that came out of it. And that's how I see this, constant flipping or just opening or mystery pieces. I like that. I thought it was, and the fact that I like this idea that Lewis mentioned that they were modified mods.
yeah. And that's how
Modified mods.
that's how I knew them. I mean, it was like when we would go to shows, there would be scooters everywhere,
Right.
skinny ties and beetle boots, and yep, yeah. These are fantastic photos, by the way.
No,
I-
they're
and
fabulous.
I love the idea. But it's almost like don't mess with my 16 tambourines on one hand, right? So there's that.
When the day ends, it always goes back to this, right? But there is no denying the brilliance of Bill Inglot and what he was able to do with this remaster.
Yeah,
The sound is amazing, and the songs that I've loved before, I love even more. And there are other songs that have really come back to life for me, and it's just because the remaster is really well done.
yeah.
Very
Danny said the word warmth, and I think that's a good way to describe it.
perfect.
There's also like an extra clarity that I hear where there's, I think, a little bit more separation. And I think it's probably done as far as EQing wise. So the not separation as far as like speakers, but separation as far as tone. So I think it has a little bit more power if you want to use that word, but it's so much more, the clarity is so much more at a higher level, as well as the warmth.
All right, Jeff.
Definitely.
Last question from me to you. If you're Earl Mankey and you get this call from 3:00, do you take it?
I want to hear the demos. I totally respect, as we've talked about many times with Michael Steele, like she wants to step away and have a life that was her life for so many years, music, and now it's time to live a different life. So I totally respect that he wants to step away. My hope would be that having a couple years stepping away from that, and these guys who we've talked with Earl personally, as well as we've heard him in other interview sessions, how much he adores these guys as individuals and as a band, and he likes working with them. I could actually see that happening. So if it were me and I heard demos and I thought this has a lot of potential, we can make the best 3:00 release. Hun, I'm coming out of retirement for one more record, but
The boys will be in the kitchen. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So I'll be back in the yacht in 2 weeks. So yeah. Let's do this.
I always love talking to Danny and Michael and Lewis.
Yeah.
And today, no different. I don't want to say anything else. Mi gente, a groovear.
Groove on, Paisley people.
Clinic. It was a cardio clinic.
Oh, okay.
And
All right.
I play tennis 4 days a week now, and on Thursdays it's all women and me, and they accept me, and I love it. So they call themselves Louis Angels. It's me, I'm not kidding you. It's me and like 7 other women.
I love that.
A hell of a lot of fun.